เปลี่ยนเป็นภาษาอังกฤษ How can we constantly live in the present while we always have to make plans for the future? The teaching of living in the present moment is not one in which we overlook or neglect the importance of the past or the future. So in any kind of situation, we have a part to play, then we are having to draw upon memory. If we have some challenge in our studies or in our work, then we need to draw upon things that we've learned in the past experiences, and so on. There's no question about that. Similarly, we have to make wise decisions about how to prioritize our objectives and what to do first, what to do later, what's important, what's not important. So, and we're traveling somewhere, then obviously even arahants have to get a plane ticket before the plane leaves. Otherwise, it would be a very difficult situation. So it's just common sense, isn't it, that being in the present moment doesn't mean this sort of timeless present moment. That's an experience, and a wonderful experience that may come during meditation and will give a whole new perspective, dimension to our understanding of the nature of time. But in the conventional world, in everyday life, what it means is we're not uselessly, needlessly dwelling on the past or the future. So if so much of our mental activity is spent going over and over and over things in the past without any benefit at all to the present moment and our responsibilities and our duties and whatever we want to do, is that this habit, if we get a little bit depressed or sad, maybe just I think of some good memory just to cheer us up, or even much more damagingly, if you have had some argument or some pain in the past, and we're talking about separation from a loved one just now, or some argument, and you just go over and over and over again, round and round and round and round. It's like having a meal from last week. Just imagine if you had some food from last week and it's all going sort of cold and moldy and sticky, and you started to eat that, again, food from a week ago. How disgusting is that? Well, that's what we do mentally. Just go over these old memories again and again and again and again. It's an addiction, and it doesn't contribute anything to the quality of our life at all. So when we're saying being in the present moment, what we're trying to let go of is that habit of allowing past experiences and memories from taking over our mind. Similarly with the future, we're talking about what we have to deal with, and a good way of looking at it is what is urgent and important. Urgent, not important, important, not urgent, not important, and not urgent. And then we can say, well, we try and do what's important and urgent first, and what is unimportant and not urgent last. And then between the second and the third one, most people make the mistake of doing what is urgent or duan before what is important or samkhan. But the wise person, many cases, will do what is important but not duan. first, because otherwise we just get stressed out, and often we spend a lot of time telling ourselves, we've got to do this, got to do that, got to do this, got to finish that, and really what for? Not very much at all. And really important things which have long-term benefits, because there's not time pressure, we don't give them enough importance. So we're deluded, or we're manipulated by a sense of time pressure to do a lot of quite unnecessary, pointless things, and important things which for a long-lasting benefit, but which don't have any kind of social pressure, time pressure on us, we neglect. And so obviously an example of that is meditation practice. You don't meditate, no one's going to tell you off, no one's going to get on your back, and you think, I'll do this, it's more important to get this finished first and do that, and then maybe sometime I'll do that, and of course you never get round to it. So the future is, and the past, what are they right now in your experience? The past is a memory, and the future is thought. So when you're dealing with the past and the future, what you're actually dealing with is presently arising memory and presently arising thought. So you're always in the present moment anyway, you can't escape the present moment. But it's a matter of recognizing that you're dealing with thoughts about the future, and you're dealing with memories of the past. You realize what you're doing. There's that sense of self-awareness. Is it wrong to be ambitious? Everyone wants to be successful materialistically, whether it's for their own sake or to fulfill their parents' desires. Yeah, I don't think people are ambitious enough. I think people are too easily satisfied in their life. I think people, I would say that if you think just making a lot of money and being famous and successful in your career, I think that's a very unambitious attitude to life. I think you should be far more ambitious and consider the spiritual dimension of life as this pretty kind of narrow, miserable kind of goal if you're only looking at it in materialistic parameters. But on the materialistic level, there's no idealization of poverty in Buddhism at all. You know, poor people are not more spiritually rich than rich people. The question is how you live your life and how you pursue success, what you consider success to be. So in the Buddhist, you want to be successful, you want to be top of the tree in your particular profession, so fine, no problem. But do it in an honest way. Don't cheat, don't take advantage of others, don't be corrupt, don't take shortcuts. Do it in a way that you can feel proud of yourself and that you can respect yourself and you can be respected by others. One reflection I was talking with someone the other day, and I've given before, is what you want to be able to do is to lead your career, lead your life and pursue your career in such a way as if you have children of your own, and then your son and your daughter said, how did you make your money? How did you pursue your success? And if you can reveal the way that you've lived your life and not have to conceal anything from your child, then I think that's one definition of success. But if you have to hide things or excuse things or justify things, and because of you're ashamed of exactly how you've made all this money, then I don't think that's a worthy ambition. In the end, the word for money and things in the for Buddhist sense, we have the special word patjai, like tawai patjai. So patjai means support. So the problem with money is that we forget that money is a support. It's a means to an end. And the problem comes when money becomes an end in itself. So if you want to accumulate lots of money, well, that's no problem with that. But what for? So the Buddha says, one, you should accumulate wealth, called pokasap, in an honest, ethical way with integrity. But once you have accumulated money, you need to use it to bring happiness and benefit to yourself, and also happiness and benefit to your family, the people around you, and to be able to create and contribute to the well-being of your community, the society in which you live in, and also to contribute to the well-being and the progress of the religion that you uphold. So saying, yeah, make as much money as you want, but be clear why exactly. If it just becomes an end to itself, and you sometimes feel, well, I've got all this money in the bank, and I've got 2 houses or 3 houses, and I've got this kind of car and that kind of car. For me, that's a kind of pretty low, miserable, narrow kind of ambition. But if you're accumulating wealth in an honest way, and you're using that wealth in a really constructive way for yourself, your family, your community, society, for the sasana, then that's a wonderful thing. And then the more money you have, then the more good things you can do, and the more happiness you can create, and the more benefit you can create. What are your thoughts about the riots which are going on around the world, especially in England and the Middle East? Well, so I'm not an expert on these matters, but as far as I understand, the riots in the Middle East and the riots in England are of a quite different nature. The riots in the Middle East are predominantly political protests against the prevailing political system, calling for more democracy, more participation, more justice in society. The riots that have been taking place in England the past week or two are not political, not overtly political. So there are 2 main ways of looking at these things, which are, as most simply put, is the left-wing and the right-wing view. So the left-wing view is that these kinds of riots are basically the expressions of frustration from the poorer people in society who feel excluded, and is a response to huge cuts in welfare spending and for the welfare of poorer people. And the people, yes, a lot of kind of repressed anger, sense of injustice and exclusion, which is just looking for a trigger. The right-wing view would be that parents are not bringing up children properly, they're not disciplining their children. There's a huge problem with single-parent families, with majority of children growing up without a father in the house, lacking good male role models, father role models. There's no sense of community, and so the right-wing view would be sort of putting things on personal responsibility, and the left-wing view more on social conditions. So I would say myself, there's probably a bit of both, and various things contributing. But I think that in a society in which, again, people have very naive and unsophisticated understanding of the nature of happiness and suffering, and when most people consider happiness to be a function of consumption, then if your society is one in which you're telling everybody that you can only be somebody, you can only really be happy, you can only really be fulfilled if you have this, if you possess that, if you consume this, and then you have large numbers of people who feel that there's no way they're ever going to be able to consume those things, then you're going to have problems and violence every now and again. So in one sense it's the value system of the society, and I think there are huge problems in the ways that in the family structure these days, but also there is in Buddhist economics and the Buddhist teachings on the responsibilities of governments and kings, then it's clear that the Buddha felt that in a very unjust economic system in which there's a huge gap in wealth between the rich and the poor, then the king in those days, or governments, do have a role in trying to help the poorest members of society. And so that would imply a system of taxation and social welfare programs. I think that would be in harmony with the teachings that appear in the Pali Canon, in the Tipitaka. I was speaking on the phone with my mother, and she was telling me there was a student, a 21-year-old student, who'd never had no criminal record. He's in London, and he'd been visiting his girlfriend, and he was walking home, and he was thirsty, and they were breaking into the shop, and so why not? So he just took a couple of bottles of water. So the price of maybe about £3 or something, and he got caught and he got given 4 months in prison. So he's going to have like a criminal record, 4 months in prison for taking a couple of bottles of water. So you can see that just that moment, that just how subtle that is. I mean, that wasn't like a really real barp in his mind. It wasn't really something terrible, but just that lack of integrity. And just that little sort of something for nothing, that's all it takes. And you think, well, nobody's going to catch me, this is not going to, it's just water, it's nothing. And, it's 4 months in prison. There are other young men, like given 8 months and 9 months for stealing a pair of trainers and things like that. So, there's a lot to reflect on that situation, and but the one point I was going to make about barb, you think barb is we had it's like to make really bad karma, it's got to be like a really big deal. But if you consider modern warfare these days, and how in the richer countries like America, where they have such advanced technologies, where you can kill large numbers of people basically playing a computer game. You don't have to have any kind of contact with the people that you're killing. All you're doing is looking at a screen and pressing a button. And so you could kill large numbers of people and have no at that moment, no subjective kind of sense of shame or horror or realization of what you've done, what would you feel? You just see a screen and you see a target, and it's no different from all the video games you've been playing since you were a kid. So it's not to say that when you make really important choices in your life, or when you do something which is going to have really long-term consequences, at that moment you feel like, oh, this is a really big deal. You might just think it's nothing, and so that's again why I'm stressing this importance of mindfulness and having boundaries and having standards that you set for yourself, not something that someone's telling you to do, or you feel you're forced to not do this and not do that, but you say, yeah, this is how far I go, this is my standard, this is my boundary, and I keep within that boundary whatever other people are doing, whatever else people say is the latest fashion, the latest style, everyone's doing it, and so on and so forth. You have to have your own integrity. That's the only way you can really survive in the ethical and spiritual sense.